Welcome everyone to Wizards Outlook. We spoke to you guys a little bit earlier on Wizards pregame. Got Cardo Dudley Jr. here. Well, since Harpe Jr. and Cardo on pregame, I went over a couple things. I talked about the trio of guards for Charlotte and how Washington had to, how imperative it was for them to try to slow them down because in the first two games they've been producing. They've had huge contributions. Another person that's been productive against them is Diabate, which he continued today. After today, Diabate is averaging a double double against the Washington Wizards. Like I mentioned, the three guards in Ball, Miller, and Knuckle. Miller, he was only a second. He played today. He played in the previous matchup. He didn't play in the first one, but he's also had, I think he had 20 today. So he's had 20 in both games against the Wizards. LaMelo wasn't as, loud from a scoring standpoint. But again, those three were not slowed down enough. We saw Washington go down, I think about as many as 18 in the third quarter. And then felt like Justin Champagne did an amazing job in the fourth to like really spark Washington. They went on a big run. They cut the lead, the deficit down to single digits. But Charlotte did what they needed to do. They got some timely baskets late to hold Washington off. But I just want to get your thoughts on this one. And we saw Trey Johnson have a career high 26 in this one, which Washington definitely needed. And Sarr had a big game as well with 24 points. But your thoughts on this one?
Um, it was a good comeback. I just felt like the Wizards shot selection cost them this game. It was way too many 3-pointers. No disrespect. Outside of Trey and Bug, they were hitting. You know what I'm saying? They were combined 11 to 26. Bub shot 45% from deep. Trey shot 40%. Trey was hitting some bombs. You know what I mean? Like the shot selection. Jameer went 1 for 5. You're not a 3-point shooter yet. Like that's not his game. If you open once or twice, I get it, but that's not your game. You're a defender slash getting the mid range and all that. Keyshawn 2 for 10. That literally shot them out of the game because that's 20%. Now that's 10 out of the 53 3-pointers. They went 19 to 53. Now because of Bub and Trey, it looked like a decent percentage, 35%. But when you shoot that many threes, guess what's happening? You're not getting to the line. Now they went 8 for 9 from the line, but Charlotte went 23 to 30. That's just too big a gap to try to overcome. Now it was a close game. They got hot late. The Wizards. It was, Wizards won the second chance points also, offensive putback, 22-14. Points off turnovers, the Wizards won at 21-17. They had the edge in bench points 32-31. So it was like little details of little parts of the game where the Wizards did win offensively, outscoring, outplaying the Hornets. But at the end of the day, too many threes, where the Hornets were 14 or 36 and they shot 38%. Then they got to the line 23 out of 30. And then they shot 52% from the field. Overall, 41-78. Only thing that killed them was the turnovers. If they took care of the ball better, this game's not even close. And that's what allowed the Wizards to stay close was the turnovers. But the shot selection is what ended up, forcing them to lose. Like, that's just way too much. 53 out of 96 of your shots were 3-pointers. That's no, I don't want to hear that about the analytics, man. At some point, you just gotta keep it like no one got close to shooting 40%. Only 2 players shot. Well, I mean, Sharif and Malachi Branham shot 1 for 1, but that was when the game was already kind of decided, so they made a quick run late. You know what I mean? But like overall, with the volume of shooting a shot attempts from deep, man, nobody was close to 40%. So why y'all shooting that late? Even with Keisha, like that shot selection, man, it's just get better shots, better chance of scoring. Helps your defense. It just helps everything else flows, and now you're in a position to possibly win this road game that you had a chance to win with the way you fought to come back. In the fourth quarter, 34-26. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, man, because it's like. It's one thing to lose. All right, cool. The team got you. Go back to the drum and figure it out. But it's one thing to lose because you did something to yourself. And I felt like that was the case, man. Like 30 free throw attempts to 9. And you can't say like, the Charlotte was more aggressive. Like if you're the Wizards, you can't say, man, they got some favorable calls being at home. No, you just didn't attack to even warrant a call. You just didn't, and it's not some old school type of thing. If you hitting those threes and stuff, like okay, cool. They was like, if you took some of those 10 shot attempts from Keyshawn and gave them to Bub and Trey, and they made a few more, I could, in a sense, you can kind of digest that better. But when you 20, come on, man, you got to know when you off, man. You know when you off, and it just this is how you shoot yourself to a L in a game that was completely winnable because of the shot selection. Like, fast break point, Charlotte 17-9. I knew they won. I ain't even have to look at it. Let me be accurate. I knew they won that. Because the misses you have with 3-pointers usually are long rebounds. We all to the races. And then you got LaMelo Ball and Concanapple and then Brandon Miller and all those guys and Miles Bridges, Diabate. You got a bunch of athletes running. It's a bad recipe. And it's going to stress you. They're going to usually score, or they're going to stress your defense. So, yeah, monster game from Trey. He wasn't the most efficient, man. I think this, we're overall from the field. 6 of his 8 mates came from deep, but he was knocking them down from the outside 4 or 5. We know what he could do. That's what got him drafted. I like the 6 assists and only 2 turnovers as well. Bud was 15 and 8. Can't knock that. Their backcourt came the ball. They battle LaMelo and Brandon Miller, even being undersized. I got to give him credit. Alex Saar, 24. Need to rebound better, but he was 11 and 19, 1 and 3. That's what I'm talking about. Like he stayed with his shots. He didn't force those things up, but he got to give me more. 1 of 1 from the free throw line. 1 of 1, your center. It's just hard to win like that. I don't care what metrics you use or how you try to change the game and stuff like that. It's just hard, man. It's hard to win that. Now his opponent, Musa Diabate, who's probably in that starting line, well, ain't no problem. He's the 5th option. 7 to 8 from the free throw line. That's a problem. That's a 7 to 8. That's a problem. And he only got 3 shots and got to the free throw line more than you. That's a problem because he was working on those rebounds and 14 rebounds. So he was out working Sar and more athletic, and those little things add up to wins. So that's my take from the Wizards. Just they lost too many of the margins, so to speak, man. They lost too many of those battles. And when you don't win enough of those battles, I don't care how well you may shoot or whatnot, you tend to lose, man. Especially in the
And
league.
we saw the contrast in that down the stretch when Washington made that run. The game gets tight. We saw Charlotte play after play after play. They were getting downhill. No matter who had the ball, they were getting downhill. They got the switch to Alex, I think, where they got Alex on Bridges one time. Bridges got downhill, got the dunk. Got LaMelo on Alex on LaMelo out in space. Alex did a great job getting him off the 3-point line. But again, they didn't settle. Alex took the space away. They could have done something where Washington did, which was settle for a tough 3 over a big. LaMelo created a little bit of space and got a floater up. Bridges got just enough by Alex, to explode and get a dunk, but they were getting downhill. And to your point, I think that was the difference most of the game. Even when the threes that they got, it was often getting downhill. Where Washington, it was their threes didn't come in that manner. And as you were talking about, Keyshawn, and today with the shot selection, is one of the things that's frustrating is we've seen him conversely in other games where it's not like he can only shoot threes. He has a nice he has a nice game in that he has a nice mid range game. We've seen that time and time again over the first 2 years of his over the first 2 seasons of his career. And like you said, Alex was 1 of 3. Stop shooting them. You know, if it's a rough day, key, stop at 2 for 5 or whatever. Get in a rhythm and maybe get back to it a little bit later. But that was a tough thing. And then again, what I walked away with was just Champagne did a hell of a job sparking that run late. And we saw them all that run. It wasn't a bunch of threes there in that run. That was getting stops, getting out, getting downhill, and literally you can't you flew back into the game doing things a certain way. The game got tight, and then we went back to jacking threes. which was crazy because y'all came that lineup that came back was it was Alex and four guards. It was Alex, Watkins, Bub, Trey, Champagne.
Mhm.
Uh, guards, wings, whatever you want to call it. But it was one big on the floor. They were strapping up. Everybody was flying around defensively, and they were getting downhill and they were scoring. Like you said, the two guys who had to go in from deep tonight, I wasn't tripping over Trey above shooting at all. Uh, but you got that. You almost erased a double digit lead. You went down 18 and erased that lead by getting downhill, by getting stops, getting out in transition. And then all we saw down the stretch was awkward three, rush three, just bad three. And we saw during that run that you didn't need to. Like, credit to Charlotte, but it's not like you couldn't get by them. Got by them during the run to close the gap. So, again, just frustrating is the best
Mhm.
way I put it, for sure. Player of the game for you, this one?
Mm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Brian Melo. We ain't talking enough about him. Obviously, trying to break down the Wizards, but 20, 10, and 7, working on the triple double, 7 of 11. He's starting to become where he was drafted at. Like, and you can see Lamelo kind of being more going back more. I'm gonna be more of a true point, just run the show and stuff. Because Brandon's becoming that guy, that go-to guy that he was drafted to be, and you starting to see the Hornets overall start to elevate because the young player roles are being defined, and they're not being defined by some metric or preconceived thought. It's the play on the floor where everybody on the team can clearly see, okay, he warrants being in that role, he warrants being in that role, he warrants being in that role. Like when they came to DC, I think Kalkbrenner was the starting center. Diabate is now the starting center because he fits more, his athletic, his defense and stuff. He don't need the ball, and that keeps the shots being balanced for the other four guys. Miles Bridges needs shots. Colin Knuckle, obviously, Lamelo, he orchestrating, and Brandon Miller, and that's why he leads the team in scoring. But almost supposed to triple double, 63, 50, 100 shooting splits. Did his thing. Like and even defense. I know Trey had a big number, but he was highly inefficient. So that's what you do. You do your thing. In the league, that's a win. Yeah, he might get his total number or average, but if he's inefficient doing that, typically that means it's probably going to be a win because he needed a lot of shots to get that number, and he took shots from other guys, and that kind of plays into your hands. So for me, it's definitely Brandon Miller.
Oh, I agree. I was gonna say just what we've seen this year once he got back was their roles organically. It's organically happened. To your point, with people falling to their roles and Lamelo falling back to play more point guard, Loki just makes him a little bit more dangerous because he can pick and choose when to kind of hit the gas, and kind of shift things for opposing defenses. But yeah, Brandon Miller's a problem. It's been fun to watch him kind of get his footing for sure. And then Khan has Khan's coming his rookie year. He's showing you exactly what he is, and and quickly, you could see the vision Charlotte had was you're gonna fit right in here between these two, and the three of y'all are gonna be fine. And then look what it did. It bumps Miles Bridges into a very comfortable role. Like Miles Bridges is in heaven. You gotta worry. You're worrying about all this other stuff, and depending on closeouts, how the floor is being shifted, one of the more athletic players in the NBA, you're running towards awkward and bad closeouts. Horrible things are gonna happen. Think about it. The way they move the ball at times, you swinging the ball to opposite corner, someone running full speed out the Miles Bridges. He's going by you to put that on somebody's head. Um, so I know he's thoroughly enjoying that. But yeah, just and that was the thing I know we talked about before with whatever Washington chooses to do going forward. Is that some of those teams that where those rebuilds happen and it works really well is when the things happen organically. And Charlotte, they're a couple steps away, but we're seeing what it looked like. Like we're seeing the pieces fit. So credit to them for that. X factor.
Musa Diabate, 11 points, 14 rebounds, man. On 2 or 3 shooting, man. That's highly productive, man. I'm
Mm-hmm.
surprised he ain't had more blocks, but I know he altered a lot of shots for sure. But yeah, him, how old the kid, um, problem, man. One of the guys that just helps you win.
Yeah, him and Kalkbrenner are a nice little duo for Charlotte. Um, as bigs. But yeah, again, he's averaging a triple double against Washington, and I don't even need to look. I know the rebounds are at least 12 of what he's averaging. But in one game he had 18, he had 14 this one, and I think the most regular rebounding game he had was like 11. Um, Super productive, and for the third consecutive game, he's impacted it in Charlotte's. He played a role in tipping the scales in the Charlotte's favor. And this was I think they were saying on the broadcast that the first two wins Charlotte had over Washington this year were by 21 and a half points. This was the closest of the three games was this evening. So they have one more time that they'll play. I believe it's at the end of February. So see what that looks like. But as of right now, Charlotte has a 3-0 lead in their season series. But yeah,
Um,
nothing else.
they coming, man. They found something.
Yep.
They're streaking, man. They really are. You got to pay attention to them. They've been together for a while. I mean, Con Canoble, I think, he reminds me so much of Chris Mullin, though. Watching him play, it's crazy. So much of that dude it is, but he just ain't in a role where he can let loose like how Mullin was. But the savviness, the way he can shoot and score, it's crazy, man. So, um, you know, they starting to figure it out, man, and that's where you hope the Wizards will be soon. You know, kind of figuring that out where you went in, putting together win streaks of games and stuff, and headed for the playoffs, man. You know what I mean? So, in a weird way, the Wizards are kind of looking at a microcosm where they gonna want to be soon. So, yeah, but they got to do something with that shot selection, man, because bad shot selection can beat you. Just that can beat you by itself. You ain't even got to worry about nothing else.
Literally can end your night, and that's you doing it. That's not the other team. That's you playing a considerable role in your own demise. But we'll check with you guys later this week. As Washington returns home for a series of games.